Hi everyone, this is Dave from Mountbatten Estates, and today we have Andrew Minto from Landhaven. They are a very successful developer and they are using one of our VAs. And the purpose of today's conversation is just to find a little bit more about Andrew and his team, what they're doing, where they're based, what sites they're looking at, and also find out a little bit about how they're working with their VA. So, Andrew, over to you. Kindly introduce yourself and tell us all who you are.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Yes, my name is Andrew Minto. I run Landhaven, and we're a development company based in. We specialise in new homes, whether that's completely new build, ground up, or converting existing buildings. We really love to do high-end homes, quality projects, quality properties. My background is in design and in working for the council, so that's given me quite a good sort of background in creating good properties. So we're trying to build a portfolio of HMO properties, but not just any old HMO, co-living, high-end, high spec for young professionals. And part of that is doing ground up projects to raise funds for a portfolio. But more recently, actually, we're looking at ground up to build to keep, so that we can create sort of purpose-built properties to keep. And I'm doing a lot of work with landowners to help them unlock the value in their properties, because quite often people who've got property know it's an opportunity, but actually unlocking that is tricky. And I do a lot of work with investors who want to be part of our projects, want to put their money to good use financially, but also to learn, to be providing homes. Our investors are interested in joining us for the returns, but also to be part of bigger projects and to be part of quality projects. So yeah, trying to do lots of interesting things.
Brilliant. I'm just going, before we kind of delve into all this, I was really keen just to pick up on a couple of points from what you just mentioned. So in terms of working with landowners, what does that typically look like? Because when they come back to you from your letters, what's your approach? What's your approach? What kind of what does the conversation look like? And also, I mean, I understand that every landowner and investor is different. So, typically, what are you seeing and how are you pitching like joint ventures and what your interest is in their site?
Really good question. I don't know what people generally think of when they hear the word landowner, but I would say 99% of the times, my experience is it's just families. It's someone who's perhaps been bereaved, or they've inherited a property, or for whatever reason, there's a family that have got land or a property and they need help sorting it out. They need help with planning, with funding, construction, sale, all this stuff. Even just working out what's best to do with it. There's so many options that really what happens then is that I meet with a family, we look at what they've got, we look at what they want to do, where they want to end up, and I try and find 2 or 3 really good options to put to them. It sometimes takes a while. It takes me a bit of time to do research, to come up with some solutions, but I try and listen really carefully to what it is that as a family, as landowners, what it is that they want to end up with. We often talk about the sort of what's their perfect sort of outcome here, and how do we get there. And that's where it's interesting, because sometimes they want everything sold and done quickly. Sometimes they've got time and we can work together. So there's maybe a sort of partnership there. And sometimes they can actually help me with the funding. So I have got a couple of examples where we use what's called vendor finance, and the vendors. So I've got one example where the vendors I've got planning permission for this family. They've sold me the land. That money is invested with us, and I pay them a monthly interest. So the beauty of that is I haven't had to go out and find 200,000, and the elderly lady that owns the land, she's getting what, £800-900 a month. It's life-changing,
Yeah.
and she's getting sort of income as quite an elderly, frail lady, from a scrappy bit of land that I've helped her get planning on. And that family I've worked with for quite a few years to just get through all the hoops and hurdles. It was greenbelt land, it was on a bridle way, it's got sort of some drainage problems, but slowly we've solved it, and got permission there. It's a quite valuable build on there. So yeah, it's always working with families, trying to find the right solution for them.
It's, you mentioned Greenbelt. I can imagine that would have been an extremely difficult and challenging site to put through the planning system, and there would have been a lot of people out there with that expertise. So the fact that you were able to come along, put a few solutions and options together for her.
Exactly.
And you got to remember as well, these people are landowners. They have no idea about planning. They're not developers, so they've got no idea of building out. So to give them options on planning uplifts and joint ventures and everything else must be music to their ears, I guess.
It is music to their ears, and it's using sort of expertise and knowledge in something like the green belt. Knowing that there are a very small number of building types that can work with the right circumstances, which this one was. Yeah, music to their ears, and adds value to a site that's got nothing on it and can't really have a lot else on it. So it creates quite a lot of value from a scrappy bit of land that no one's doing anything with.
I really like the fact that you joint venturing with her as well. And
yeah, it's brilliant.
And people think a joint venture is very, very rare. You're never going to have an opportunity to joint venture with a landowner. I think if you're relying on agents, you know that's very true. I don't think anyone's ever going to phone you up and offer you a joint venture or an option contract or some sort of land promotion deal. But certainly when you go direct to vendor and you build that relationship and that trust, and you're buying off market, and for the most part sometimes even buying below market value, but you're creating a win-win scenario both for you and them.
Absolutely. And all those things that you just mentioned there, trust, it took a couple of years, but we built trust, below market value and vendor finance together. I basically said to them, look, I can pay you X, but if you give me more time, I haven't got to fund that money, and therefore I can pay you more. And really that's what happened. And that's it. And they thought, well, we're not going to let the bank have it. We'll let you have it. You pay, you have longer, you get the good planning, you pay us a bit more. Like you say, win-win.
There's two things that kind of come to mind. One is by creating these joint venture agreements with landowners, everyone thinks the landowner wants all that money in advance. They all want it right now. But I guarantee you, I must have been in this position 90% of the time. If you just simply ask the question, what do you need right now to do the deal, and what are you willing to do and leave in the deal and joint venture and get paid on the back end? Let's find a solution now, because all it is just finding a solution and being creative. But I promise you, no one needs £2 million right now for that land, or £1 million for that land. No one needs that kind of money. What are they going to do? It's going to sit in the bank. They've got no other investment. So I guarantee, if you ask the question, how much do you need right now, and how much are you willing to defer on the back end? And then also, whatever you defer, we can pay an interest on that, so you can earn money off that as well on top of your capital. Then that's a really powerful strategy there, isn't it, for monetizing on this?
And I find that scenario comes up when the people who own the land aren't actually living there or living on it.
Yeah.
or it's at the side of their house, or it's a field over there, then they've got all the time in the world. They probably owned it for 20 years. So
Yeah.
another year or two to get a good deal and get good planning, it
I,
isn't really all there.
I'll tell you something really interesting from the first joint venture I did with my first landowner. And
Mm,
it was actually a commercial building, and we agreed to JV and all that. We signed all the paperwork, and my part in all this was to get the planning and also put the team together and build and also get the development finance from the lenders and build it all out. And when I went to the lender, they jumped at the opportunity to fund it because it was a really good deal,
yeah.
and that created another problem I had, which was I needed about 156,000 on day one to cover the demolition, site setup, all the prelims, everything else that needed to be done.
Yeah.
So I went back to the lender and I said, look, I know you've agreed to lend these funds, but I need 156 on day one for all these costs. I could have gone to an investor. It would have created more work and there'd be less, profit in the deal. But I went to the lender and I said, look, I'm JVing with the landowner. There is the property is unencumbered. There's no finance on this. So there's actually less risk. There's more security. You like the deal. The numbers are really good. Would you guys be open-minded to exploring the opportunity to fund this 156? And
Mm,
they said, well, we don't really forward fund. I said, well, at least I have the conversation with the powers that
mm.
be and come back to me. About a week later, they came back and they said, look, it's a great deal. We still want to be part of this. We will forward fund this. And that was all
Excellent.
because I was joint venturing with that landowner, and there was no finance. So there
Oh,
was
I
more
see. Yeah.
security. There was
Yeah.
more security. There
Yeah.
was less risk in the deal.
Yeah.
Hence why they said,
Yeah.
yeah, lovely, because the land value, I think we had agreed was 156, no, 100, no, 550,000. So that was all more security for the lender, wasn't it?
Yeah. 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 No, that sounds brilliant. Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah.
Andy, look, you're working with one
Mm,
of our VAs.
yes.
There's a lot of people who will be listening to this to find out how that journey is going. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be interested to learn myself,
Yes.
how long you've been working with them and, what that's looked like and what type of sites have you found and any kind of
Yeah.
conversations you've had with people. I'd love to try and find out a little bit what that journey's looked like.
Yeah. Absolutely. I had heard about BAs for about a year before I actually committed to one, and knew it was a good idea. It just hadn't. I was so busy. I just couldn't really sort of engage with that. But um, I think because I was busy, but I wasn't finding enough sites. I realized I needed help with the site finding part of our whole process, the pipeline. So I went for it in August last year, and got signed up with you to get a VA, and got introduced and sort of got the basic setup going in August. And yeah, I mean, it's gone on and on brilliantly from then. September, so it took us a little while just to work out how we were going to work, what I did, what processes, my processes were, what I liked. We set up a Trello board quite quickly. And that was really handy because we could just keep topics and keep chats on those topics organized. And we used that to start looking at what areas I wanted to search in and what types of properties, types of projects, opportunities I wanted to prioritize. Yeah, and we built up, resources, sort of information for her, set her up with an email. So that was August, we started. And what I wanted to do also was to have a really good letter. I'm probably a little bit obsessed with just trying to do things. If I'm going to do something, trying to do it well. So
Yeah.
I wanted to have a really good letter. So we also just had to sort out a bit of branding, sort out a landing page on the website. I wanted a QR code. I wanted to put some of our kind of achievements on the letter.
Yeah.
I also wanted to get the content of the letter right, and different people have got different approaches, and you've got different ways of making that first contact. You know, are you apologetic? Do you say, oh, sorry to bother you? Or do you come in quite strong and say, I've seen your land and I want it? You know, and I'm not sure either of those are quite right for me, but more you know, not to digress, but I like a letter that says, actually, we've done a lot of research around your area. We think you've got an opportunity. We'd love to talk to you about that. We're very interested in talking about a deal. Please get in touch. For me, I like that. So it took a few weeks to get letters, website sorted out, a landing page. So the first letters went out in the end of September last year, and by October, replies were coming in. So that was quite exciting. It was exciting because obviously there was new inquiries, but also it was a proof of concept. It was proof that yes, you can employ this person, use this person. Yes, you know, they can find sites. Yes, you can write a letter. The letter will get a reply. You know, it kind of proved that link. So I kind of thought, all right, this is good. And fine-tuning all the time, fine-tuning where we were looking, what we were saying, what we were looking for. And this was sort of October, November, but then obviously soon drifted into Christmas, and yeah, went a bit quiet, but that's fine. I caught up with other things. Blimey, January, I was totally overwhelmed. I was getting, so this maybe not sound a lot to you, but I was getting maybe 2, 3 a week.
Wow.
Sort of
Good.
5 a fortnight, but not just like, oh, hi, we got your letter, chat vaguely about it. This was people like, yes, we got your letter. We thought about it over Christmas, basically.
Yeah, I've been in
We
that
talked to each
situation.
other.
Yeah.
It's a new year. We've been putting this off for 20 years, whatever, you know, or we've been putting this off. We want to do something. We want to get this sorted. We want to work on it.
Yeah.
We want to see you. And again, my approach is I quite like going to meet people. It's about relationships and families. And if I get a letter, the first thing I want to do is go and visit, meet them, see the site, talk to them, get a feel for each other, get them a chance to know me. Yeah, so I would say January, February, even into March, I was probably overwhelmed.
Really?
So, you know, it's good and not good, because overwhelm isn't great. But what it proved is the whole thing can work. And in a way, the more you kind of almost like crank up the VA and the searching and the letters, the more intense that it gets.
Yeah.
The more it comes out the other end.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, a bit like a tap almost. And so yeah, so for me, then March was, you know, we had lots of inquiries, lots of projects on the go, and I was having to bring in help to assess them, sort of planning consultants to help me review them, architects, people that I've got already, but I was thinking I need a lot more help, you know, and really it's gone on from there, because we're now June. I think really what happened was, because there was this flow of opportunities, I got better and more clinical at assessing them. Because before I'd be like, oh wow, I've got to drop everything, got to do this. But actually, by the time you've got sort of 10 or 15 to choose between, you think, actually that top 3, 4, they're the real beauties, and that's where I need to put my energy. And the bottom sort of 5, 6, they're probably not going to come to anything. So it helped me be more focused.
I love hearing that, because that's exactly what's happened with me and everyone else using this. It genuinely is like a tap. The more activity that you put in, the more it spits out. And the beauty about this, though, is you can speed it up and you can slow it down. So once you do get to a stage where you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and you've got maybe, say, for argument's sake, half a dozen vendors and landowners you're speaking with, and you're analyzing, you're making offers, you can slow it down a little bit. Maybe don't put out, you know, 200 or 300, 400 letters next month, but you still find the sites. So you need that kind of the top of the funnel still being, you know, filled, But it's down to you whether you want to put out, that many letters this month to create another whole host of activity. It was interesting you mentioned about the kind of December, January situation, because that's exactly what happens. People tend to switch off a week or two before Christmas. They finish work. They have more disposable time over Christmas to sit down and review things that they've been putting off, or maybe letters they haven't opened. But and I find
they see family as well.
Exactly, and I see it so many times. I mean, I'll tell you one situation I found myself in January just gone. It was such a funny situation. I must have sent about 2 or 3 letters to this guy, and he never came back to me. And it was the 3rd of January. I remember it well. The 3rd of January, the guy phones me up and he said, "Dave, I'm in receipt of 3 of your letters. You must be really keen to speak to me. Let me tell you my situation. I took my whole family, my wife and my kids, away over Christmas, and my wife was nagging me the whole time that we need to sell this site because I've had it for a few years. And my plan was I was going to do X, Y, and Z with it, but obviously I've been really busy, and I've kind of been a bit relaxed on it. So look, I know myself, I'm not going to do it. So look, I know you're keen. You wouldn't have sent me 3 letters if you weren't keen. What are you about? What are you doing? Do you want this site? And he said, "Yeah, can you just buy it from me so my wife can stop nagging me?" And that
for the peace.
And you know what's interesting as well? I had another situation. It was in Surrey, and again, similar situation. I'd kind of sent 3 or 4 letters, and I was at the verge where I wasn't really going to send any more. But I like the idea you send those multiple touch points, because what people don't realize is if you send one letter and hope that the guy's going to come back to me, then it's false thinking, because don't get me wrong, a certain percentage will come back to you from a first letter, but sometimes it's like lending money. How many touch points would you need with someone before you felt comfortable enough to go back and say, okay, well, this guy is actually quite keen, I do need to have a chat with him. So that tends to happen after 2 or 3 or 4 letters. But what was interesting, sometimes people say to me, "Dave, I do apologize, I didn't get your first or second letter, but look, I've got your third." And there's a reason behind that, because sometimes letters go missing, and sometimes it gets a gatekeeper at the company, and then they'll bin it, whatever. But but what was interesting, this one guy, he hadn't come back to me for 3 letters or 4 letters I'd sent him, and he said, "Look, Dave, I'm giving you a call now. I did get all your 3 letters previously, about kind of 9-10 months ago, but I was quite busy. I was kind of coming up to retirement. I'm a contractor, and my dad was a contractor as well. And my dad left me this builder's yard, which was great because, I'm a contractor and I used it for the last 30, 40 years, and he did it 30, 40 years before him. So it's been in our family for nearly 100 years. I've retired now. I've got no need for it. I've only got girls. I've got no boys, so they won't be carrying the business on. So I'm not only retired and I need the money, but my daughter's getting married as well. So now I have to sell it because I've no need for it. So look, if you're still interested, I know you're kind of keen. Do you want to do a deal? And that's a true story. That's how it all came. That all came about.
Brilliant.
And
brilliant.
And I'll tell you why I like letters as well, Andy. Letters are tangible. You send an email, like, if you're anything like me, I'll get 50 or 100 emails in, and if I don't open it, it'll just get buried. But letters are tangible. People open a letter, they'll put it in their top drawer, or put it in a filing cabinet, and they'll take it out in 6 or 9 or 12 months' time when the timing's right. And this is a true story. I actually had 2 conversations with people in the last 6-7 months, and I sent a letter 3 years ago. Believe it or not.
Brilliant. I do believe it. I do.
And one lady, she came back to me because her husband's uncle, her uncle-in-law, sadly passed away, and he'd kept the letter, and they were cleaning out the house because they're the executors of the will.
Executor.
And because they were cleaning out, they found my letter, and they hadn't even decided to speak to an estate agent or anyone in that field. She spoke to me first, because I actually put at the end of my letter, "Look, I'd be more than happy to speak to you whenever you're free. I'm always interested in this site." And because I put that small bit in, she said, "Look, Dave, I see you're still interested in the site." And that's how it all came about. But it's interesting, isn't it? you know.
It is really interesting. I think as well that sort of modern life's getting more and more electronic, digital. That an actual paper letter or nice paper,
It's quite rare.
well written. Well, yeah, it definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
And people think, oh, what's this? I'll look at it, you know,
yeah,
read it, and it's got a little bit more novelty than it
that's
used
right.
to. Sort of,
Yeah,
10 years ago, it would get lost in a. You'd have to do a bright
yeah,
envelope because it would just get lost. Um, yeah, and I think people notice a letter a bit more than they used to. So
yeah.
I really like them. Yeah,
So tell
yeah.
me, what kind of conversations, what type of people are coming back from your letters, and kind of what
Yeah,
conversations you're having, and
really interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I suppose just to tell you a little bit about the type of letters we're sending, which
mm,
is because of my background in the council and in design, I knew that near us, but there's South Gloucestershire Council above us and North Somerset below us, and both of them are rewriting their local plans.
okay,
And I just knew that this was an opportunity. So, and I wasn't quite sure what to put the VA on, but I knew that this was a sort of time-specific opportunity. And so I said to her, here's where the settlement boundaries are changing. Here's the old boundary. Here's the old boundary. Here's the new boundary.
yeah,
See what's in between. So we got loads of opportunities came through that, and because we've got South Gloss and North Somerset, it sort of doubles
yeah,
the flow. Um, so that's very good. We've got loads of those. But also because the local plan's being rewritten, new areas are being allocated for development. And credit to her, not me, she spotted a bit of land that was allocated. Not allocated. It came up in the call for sites, and the council marked it as preferred. So it kind of was at that point. It was like, yeah, the council know about it. The council quite like it, but it's not definitely going in.
yeah,
She sent them a letter. Again, it's a family. It was a paddock. They've had horses for 20 years. They've had horses there, but not for the last 6 for various reasons at home. And they got in touch. We had a meeting. We got on. I got our planning consultant to look at it. I've never had a call back so fast in my life from a
really,
planning consultant. He said that this is life changing. There's an opportunity here. What happened was the family didn't know how to engage with a promotion process.
yeah,
And the council had written to them saying, please give us a bit more information.
yeah,
Show us that you're committed. Show us what's going to happen here. Basically, provide a vision statement.
brilliant,
Because we're scoring the sites and we're whittling them down, but the owners didn't understand that. So they just said, they said nothing. They just ignored it. And the deadline went, so the deadline was February, and I think I saw it a month ago in May. And so the planning consultant said, you basically got to get onto the council quickly. You've got to save it. And it's all kind of gone from there. So basically I've persuaded the council to give us an extension of time. I got our architects to turn around a document in 3 weeks, which is quite quick for them. And we submitted that to the council. I've got an agreement that we're tying up with the landowners for me to help them, because basically they knew it had potential, but they didn't have the funding or the expertise.
yeah,
For what is quite a niche area of planning, promoting a site in the local plan that only gets rewritten every 15 or 20 years, it isn't something that everybody's doing.
mm-hmm,
So for me, that's been a bit of a niche area, and it's suited my knowledge and experience. And it's brought up a brilliant site. So this site is the council are suggesting 65 houses.
yeah.
Not us. And you think, right, what more do you want? The council is saying, we like that land. We think there should be 65 houses there to help us. I kind of think, what more do you want?
The beauty about that is, you're working with a proactive council. It's like, I'll never say planning's easy, but certainly when you're in a position where you've got a supportive planning authority, and
Yeah.
they're keen to see development there. To a certain degree, you're kind of pushing against an open door a little bit.
Exactly, exactly. And in fact, I was actually used that phrase to the landowners, and I said we're kind of pushing against an open door or an unlocked door, but we've still got to do the pushing, and we've still got to
Yeah.
go through. We've still got to say to the council, what the council have to show in their local plan is that sites are deliverable.
Hmm.
So we as a kind of landowner team, we have to convince the planners that we want to deliver this, that we can deliver it, because it helps them when they take the site to the planning inspectorate to get the whole thing signed off, to prove that these houses can actually come forward. Because it's very easy to sort of have plans, but for those plans to actually turn into houses
Yeah.
especially the smaller sites, is sometimes a problem that the planners have.
It's really interesting you mention the council kind of written to the landowner, because that happens an awful lot. I was in a situation a while back, probably about 3 years ago, I would say now, where the VA wrote, well, they identified these pair of semi-detached properties, and there was quite a large, two large plots of land attached in the freehold title as very, very large. I mean, they're way excessive sized gardens. And the reason that they picked up on it was because it was on the Schlaw register.
Yeah.
And they sent a letter, and then what happened was these two guys, one was Charlie, one was James, came back to me, and we opened a dialogue, and we had a conversation. And I'll tell you the full story of basically why he was flagged up by the council, and what the council had done with them over the years. So there was a developer who had tied up an option contract for 4 plots of land, including James and Charlie, and the other two next door. This is back in 2007, just before the crash. So he tied it up an option contract. He got planning for 13 houses across the 4 plots.
Brilliant.
And then on the day of exchange, when James and Charlie and the other two were waiting at the solicitors for the exchange to happen, the exchange didn't happen because the guy pulled out. Because then what happened was, you know what happened in 2007, we had the crash. He got cold feet.
Yeah.
He thought the end of the world was happening, and effectively didn't exchange. The council were aware that that site was consented for 13 units, but was just never brought forward. So
Yes.
about a year later, the 2 smaller plots next door were sold off to developers, and they built a couple of houses. But James and Charlie, they were still in their houses, but they had the large plot. Probably about maybe 70 or 80% of that development was actually those two guys. So the VA kind of came across it, picked up on it. It's inside a settlement boundary on the Schlaw register. Zero constraints. And what had happened over the years, now back from 2007 to 2024, was basically the council keep writing to the homeowners, the 2 homeowners, every single year, saying, "Look, guys, look, we're aware there's like the one point in the past, we gave you consent. I know it hasn't been built out. Can you kind of give me an update? Are you guys ever going to build out? We'd love to see something going on here."
Yeah, exactly.
So
What's to it?
that's a common story. And what people don't realize as well is the council, not only do they write to people that they know that there's some form of development there, maybe it's on the Brownfield register or Schlaw register or something.
Yeah.
But the councils also drive around the area, identifying plots of land, coming back and putting those subplots on these registers themselves.
Yeah.
So not even the owner knows that it's actually.
I know.
It's not.
I know.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think what more do you want? The council have said that they like it.
Yeah.
Because normally it's the other way around. It's like, oh, council, please, can you give us permission for one house?
Yeah.
And they're not, they say no. Whereas with this scenario, also a few interesting things about that is it's easy to assume, because it's on a council list, that there's millions of people know about it and millions of people working on it. This family that I'm working with, it was just them, no one else involved. They haven't even had any other letters. I think everyone's just assumed that it's tied up, it's sorted, when actually it wasn't. But I think the other thing to mention, just a little bit back to VAs, is I probably wouldn't have been that bold, because in my headspace, I was looking for 1s, 2s, 3, 4, 5 sites. I mean, a 5 site would be quite big. I quite like sort of one or two big houses.
Yeah.
But she was a bit more bold, and actually I thought, oh yeah, of course, why not? You know, in some ways it's just a multiple of numbers, and this
Yeah.
particular site, we're not looking to build the site out anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You know, I'm looking to promote it and help them get the planning and then share the value. I don't for a minute dream of building 65 houses there. I couldn't. I wouldn't.
So
Um,
you know, what you just said there is really typical, not just with me, but everyone else who are using this system. So
yeah,
typically what happens is I'll just give a remit to a VA and I'll say, look, explore this council, find me everything that's a development opportunity, PD, prior notification, change of use, full planning, unconsented schemes,
yeah,
airspace,
yeah.
brownfield sites,
Even lapsed, withdrawn planning, all that stuff.
everything, exactly.
Yeah,
And I mean, for us now as a business, as a developer, it's probably not worth my while doing a development less than 10 or 15 units, if I'm honest with you. Because we've kind of grown really quickly, and majority of our developments now are kind of around 30, 40-ish units per site.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that doesn't stop me having those conversations with people who have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or even 10 units, or potential for 10 units. And likewise, kind of 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, I'll still have those conversations with landowners at that size.
Yeah.
Why? Because we've got a huge network, and there's lots of people out there looking for 1 to 10 unit schemes that we can trade on and source on and monetize all that hard work that the VA has done. And likewise, there's some schemes that I probably wouldn't like to develop out 60, 70, 80 houses, because that's quite a large project and would take quite a few
Yeah.
years, and it's not really something I'd be interested in. But certainly I know developers and large house builders who have an appetite for that. So now what we're doing is, whatever, coming back to what you said earlier, we cherry pick all the best stuff that we want, that we feel that's in the right area, the right size, and everything that's too small or too large, guess what? We monetize and we
Yeah.
trade that on, and we use all that for cash flow to feed the beast.
Yeah, brilliant. And that's one thing, and maybe we did when we last spoke, you were helping me with that a little bit, which is just trying to find an outlet for opportunities that I don't want or can't take. Who to share them with, how to share them. That's another it's another
Avenue to
value
explore, isn't
comes
it?
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all these opportunities are valuable, and what I find is there's lots of people can process the opportunity. There's not many people can find them.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone wants
And
consented
it's the
schemes, don't they? Because they're kind of
yeah,
scared. They're
yeah.
scared of the planning system.
There's plenty of builders, plenty of developers, plenty
Yeah,
of consultants, architects, but there's not many people finding the site and sort of getting them signed up,
that's right.
bringing them into
Yeah,
the start of the process.
yeah, exactly.
So in the focus of my work, I'm much more going that way because it's a niche for us, and it's where my skills and experience is actually finding the sites, getting them signed up, building out the better ones and the ones that we want to keep,
Yeah,
but not focusing on the build, focusing more on the planning and the site and the value there.
yeah. So
For us as a strategy.
So for anyone who's probably sitting on the fence, anyone who's kind of considering, is a VA, can a VA maybe add any real value to my business? What would you say to someone who is keen, probably never worked with a VA, or maybe just considering it? Should they take the challenge,
Well,
and what can they expect?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend a VA. I think they are very good value in terms of cost for what they give you in value, what they
Yeah.
bring in. We talked about these sites. We talked about monetizing opportunities briefly. What's actually happened with my VA when I spoke to her last week? We've got a monthly video call now as well. I mean, I can tell you all the things we've set up, but
Brilliant.
on Trello, we've set up a start of the week, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And at the end of the week, what have I done? Just so
Yeah.
I can keep tabs on what she's working on. But we have a monthly call, and the most recent call, I had originally given her the sort of incentive that I would pay her more on the first site that we agreed.
Oh, amazing.
This bit of land in the planning system that we talked about, that's been agreed. with the
Brilliant.
owners. And I said to her, I'll pay you more per hour, and I'll give you a month's bonus as well for every
Brilliant.
site.
Yeah.
So, and she said, well, that's really incentivizing. And
Brilliant.
I thought, brilliant, yeah, because the more sites you bring me, the more I can pay you.
Yeah.
So I kind of say that because we've started out on quite a low cost model, but because she's bringing in so much value, I don't want to lose her, and I want to keep her incentivized and motivated.
Yeah.
Every site that she finds that's a good site, and there's loads that she's found, is valuable to me in the thousands, you know, or even hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So I see it as almost a no-brainer. You've obviously got to just be able to sort of pay them a bit, and you know, you've got to be able to fund their work and their letters. But it's not the letter sending. It's not wildly expensive. I think it's very, very good value for what you get. So I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it.
I think so I was going to say, you know, as a developer, as a sourcer, anyone who has an appetite for this or an interest in this, I think you need to consider your own hourly rate. You know,
Exactly.
you need to be focused on high value tasks, and you need to
Yeah.
outsource all the low value stuff
Yes.
as quickly and as possible. And low value is the site finding, you know, the reaching out, the sending of the letters. I mean,
the spreadsheet, the letters,
the admin that goes around, you know, filling in spreadsheets and making it all mail mergeable and finding the owner's details. That's all low value. It needs to be outsourced. And
checking like the planning behind these, you know, finding out who the owner is. All this stuff is kind of a little bit laborious. I
it
just
needs
quickly
to be
tell you
done.
that, I just on that note, I always knew that letter sending was effective.
Yeah.
I had tried to do it myself, and I probably got about 20 letters out in the course of a year.
Yeah.
And didn't follow them up. They weren't that, you know, I knew it was good, but it was too time consuming for me. And the VAs just totally unlocked that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's such a common theme. Nearly every single developer and so I'm working with, I'll tell you who the profile is, because I guarantee everyone who's listening to this, it probably beats me. They're in the same situation. You've got a business or two. You're very, very busy. You may or may not have a prop tech software like Nimbus Maps or Searchland or Land Insider or whatever. Even if you have it, you just don't have the 40 or 30 hours a week to dedicate to finding the sites. You have the software, and you might come in and do 1 or 2 hours on a Wednesday and 1 or 2 hours on a Saturday morning, but you're finding maybe 20 or 30 sites a month, and you're sending 20 or 30 letters a month, thinking
if
that
you're
that's
lucky.
going exactly, if you're lucky, and that's going to, you know, that's going to change your world. That's going to move the needle. I promise you, it won't. You need to be sending out 200 first letters every single month, and ideally, you know, when you're a few months into this system, you're sending out 200 first, 200 second, 200 third, and you've got, you know, somewhere between 400 and 600 letters going out a month. And then even if you've got like a 3% conversion rate, you can do the maths. You'll see how many people you're going to be speaking with, and that's going to create the activity. That's going to create the offers, which in turn will just be a numbers game. One of those offers will turn into a deal or multiple deals.
Yeah, exactly. And you only need one of them to be valuable to pay for all of the rest and all of the system.
Yeah, one deal will pay for everything. And we'll pay for it for many, many, many years to come. In fact, what often happens, more often than not, Andy, is we'll send a letter. We'll have a great conversation. I mean, it's happened. In fact, it's actually happened on the last deal we tied up, where we got it tied up and agreed, and the vendors obviously more involved with commercial stroke planning, and we're actually in the process of buying another development off him as well. So that one letter has turned into 2 developments.
Right, yeah.
And you know, we're talking some big numbers here, you know, 20 or 30 units per site. But like you said, you should need one conversation, one good lead, one deal to actually pay for all this, and then more to come. But I think if you are struggling for finding sites and you don't want to rely on agents and middlemen and brokers, and you want to create good quality deals that everyone benefits from, both you and the vendor.
Exactly.
And if you're worried about your funding you can be creative with the deal structure to actually try and get the funding as part of this as well. You come in like
exactly.
vendor financed, or like the conversation I had earlier, where because I was doing the JV, the lender, senior lender, actually were happy to come on board and forward fund all those day one startup costs.
Yeah. And I think you're much more likely to get a deal on terms that are good, that are a win-win.
Yeah.
I just endlessly find with agents and Rightmove that you're competing against hundreds of people.
Hundreds.
You're always pushed to the absolute limit and beyond of what the price can be. And I think it just gets unrealistic. So I completely don't look at anything that's on market. It's just a waste of time.
A waste of time. I mean, the only
it's a waste of time. The minute it hits Rightmove, I think too late. That's gone.
I think
not for me.
The only thing you need, and I'm sorry for any agents out there listening to this, I think for me, the only time I really want to speak to an agent is when I need to get those comparables and an appraisal done and back up my own GDP. Granted, maybe I might speak to them about potentially selling off plan, getting them engaged early, but like for site finding, I'd rather take responsibility of that and be proactive and create that opportunity myself than being reactive and waiting for a phone to call. And also knowing that when it does ring, like you said, it's probably sent it to 20 or 30, 40, 50 people. So it's a race to the bottom who can overpay for a site.
And then I want to be the one that's got the relationship with the seller. And that we're talking together about what the problems are, what the challenges, what the benefits are. Otherwise, you're kind of going through somebody else. Even if the opportunity comes to you. But I think it's more, it's not to say I won't use agents, it's more to say that VA and this method of site finding, for us, there's no looking back. It's brilliant. And now it's more about fine-tuning. Where do we focus on next? What's next for us? Where do I want to steer them, the VA? There's no looking back. It's perfect for us.
It's part of your system now, isn't it? And it's
totally part of the system.
And the good thing is,
I would go as far to say it's the missing ingredient. It's the missing engine at the front. It's bringing everything in.
It's creating the opportunities where everything else kind of falls into place after it.
Exactly. And there's plenty of people, and that can help with the rest of the process. But getting these opportunities in at the front is, as far as I'm concerned, is the key. It's the
lifeblood of a development business. If you don't have the opportunities, you've got nothing.
Exactly. Well, the rest it doesn't work.
Incidental, isn't it?
It's not coming in at the front.
And the beauty about this all this system as well is, once it's set up, to a certain degree, it is, self-generating. It's a hands-off system, and you can be hands-on and hands-off as much as you want, and you can communicate with them daily. I mean, I've got some developers who communicate with their VA daily, but I've got other developers who just say, look, let's speak once a week. And it's really down to you, because the whole system is always, when I set it up, it was set up because I just knew I just didn't have the time. I had the pipeline that I'd found. I needed help by feeding the top of the funnel. But, I just didn't have time daily to manage all this. So it was always set up in such a way that it was hands-free and it was done remotely. And you just come and see me when you need some help. But for the rest of the time, I just need you to work and be the machine running in the background. So that's going to create all the conversations and the offers I need to be making.
That's the same for me. I probably got a lighter touch. And we touch base, we catch up. She might ask me something, I might steer her into this or that. I think the other thing is that I did talk about getting overwhelmed, but what's happened since is that I've got on top of it and things have calmed down. And for me and my VA, I know that she's also been doing a bit of studying, and she's been doing a master's, and actually it's not constant. It's actually quite nice that she's not on it for a couple of weeks while she does her final project stuff. So it's a kind of relationship there as well, where
brilliant. There's that
and if I said to
flexibility, isn't there?
her, you really must do this, then I know she would work into the night.
But
I It's okay. We've got so much that I need to process. It's quite nice
Yeah,
that she can step off the gas a bit and do some
yeah,
other things, and then I know that I can speed it all back up again
yeah, if
if I
needs
need it
be.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah. So if anything, I don't spend masses of time sort of managing her. It's more steering, and she looks at what is helpful to me. What do I need?
brilliant.
I know some people actually get the VA to do a lot of other stuff as
That's
well,
right. Yeah.
which I haven't gone into so much. I haven't needed to, but I like to just keep her focused on site finding.
So that's actually quite interesting, that last comment.
Mm,
So when I train the VAs, I train them up obviously to be site finders, because that's ultimately probably the most important task I want them to do. But they've got fantastic transferable skills in terms of
mm,
lead gen, data entry. Some have social media
mm,
skills and qualifications.
mm, mm.
Some, I've got one girl who actually edits my website. She's got,
Yeah, brilliant.
qualifications in
Yeah,
websites. So I just thought, okay, you can site
yeah,
find and you can help me with my website and my branding and my
yeah,
social media as
exactly.
well. But
Yeah,
um, what I've done as well is I'm conscious that there's probably a lot of people out there who need help with site finding, but they also need a couple of other major tasks done that maybe falls on their shoulders. So I thought, okay, well, developers and sources also need investors. So I've trained the VAs how to
yes.
actually go online, find investors, reach out to them, build relationships with them, or at least engage with them. And then effectively they have my Calendly link, and they give that to the investor and set up a call. So not only am I is my Calendly link getting fired across to landowners, so I'm having conversation with landowners. I'm also, the VA is sending the Calendly link over to potential investors who want to come on board and partner with us on these
Brilliant.
sites.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also,
brilliant.
I thought, you know what, we trade some sites as well. We don't develop everything out. We'll get some planning, and we'll flip it
Yeah,
on, or we'll just trade it on the way it is, because there's a nice margin in it. So I thought,
yeah,
well, I need a buyer's database, don't I? Because if I don't have a
that's,
buyer's
yeah.
database, I'm just gonna phone up a land and new homes agent and say, look, I've got a great
Mm,
site, and whatever the fee is, I'm gonna have to
mm,
split 50-50. So I thought, well, we can build a buyer's database and email and do what
mm,
they're going to do, which is email it out anyway. So we've trained the VAs
mm,
up how to find all the
mm,
best buyers and active
mm,
people in
mm.
an area.
Active in your area, yeah,
And then
yeah,
basically, well, as soon as that development comes in, or that site comes in, and there's a development opportunity, or there's a way of maybe monetizing that, flipping it on, I'll just give that to the VA, and the VA will just work her way through the buyers list of that area or that council. And I
yeah,
guarantee you, she doesn't get more than, say, 6 or 7 or 8 in, and there's 4 emails and there's 4 phone calls and Zoom
yeah,
calls set up
yeah,
with these
yeah,
buyers, because they're all interested. Why are they interested? Because they're all interested because it's their area, it's their patch. They know it, they
yeah,
like it, they're active in that area, and
yeah,
who's going to say no to another opportunity being
yeah,
developed,
yeah,
offered
yeah.
to them?
And they haven't got to sweat over finding the opportunity. It's sort of coming to them,
Yeah,
off market in a way. So there's lots of that this sort of thing is what we're working on next,
yeah,
is a buyers list,
brilliant,
and investors.
brilliant,
So that's all part of the process.
brilliant. So,
So
and
yeah, really good.
Andy, I'm so grateful for you
Yeah.
taking. It was only meant to be a quick chat, but look,
That's all right.
we got into the
There's
flow,
lots to
didn't
talk
we?
about.
Yeah, we got
Yeah,
into
it's
the
fine.
flow, and it's amazing
Yeah,
to hear how
yeah.
successful you've been, and yeah, thank you so much for sharing your
Well,
insights with a VA.
you're welcome. And thanks to you as well, Dave, because I know that you do, I think, a monthly catch up with all the
Oh, I do,
VAs,
yeah,
and a
every single
sort of
month.
training session. And that I see is really valuable, because a couple of times she said, I've said to maybe, but it's more unusual kind of permitted development stuff, and she said, "Oh, I'll check with Dave, when we catch
Yeah.
up." So it's all it's all good support.
It is, yeah. I've created this support network for the VAs that they can all tap into it, and they have a
Yeah,
network that you can communicate and bounce ideas off of and share, questions and queries and answers. But more
yeah,
importantly, I always thought, wouldn't it be good if I could just give them ongoing support free of charge? And I still do it every single month, free of charge. And
yeah,
it's me, I do it
yeah.
all live. And they all
Brilliant.
come back, they all jump on a Zoom call with me. And there's a lot of changes happening all the time. There might be a clever way of doing something that we found out that we can implement, and we're
Yeah,
using it, and we've tested
yeah,
tested out, and we share that with the VA, so she can feed that back to you guys.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
like, I'll give you a perfect example. March the 5th, there was two big changes in planning. One
Yes.
was they scrapped the 1,500 square meters PD allowance,
Yes.
which was
Yes.
capping and cutting off the supply
Yeah.
to all the larger buildings to convert from commercial to resi. And they also scrapped the 3-month vacancy period before that was
Yep.
stopping all the PD being submitted, especially with the owner occupiers and the people who had the tenants in the buildings. They had to be vacant. So when, as soon as that was announced and confirmed and guaranteed, I fed all that back to the VA even before the 5th. And now all those developers who are in that space are now finding loads of opportunities, whereas before they actually tabled it and scrapped it and they'd written it all off.
Yeah. Opens up another whole area
It
of
does, yeah.
opportunity. Yeah.
Good, lovely, Andrew.
Brilliant.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you, Dave.
for joining us today.
Pleasure.
And
Pleasure.
hopefully, you know, there's a few people on the call, you know, who'll watch this afterwards, and they'll get some good feedback, and they'll maybe take a few golden nuggets from this.
Feel free for people to get in touch with me if they'd like to speak. Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. So if you're a landowner and you're an investor and you're watching this, I'll make sure and these details are in the description below. And if you're someone who's a sourcer or a developer or anyone interested in building and scaling an off-market pipeline of development opportunities, then yeah, feel free to reach out to me and let's have a conversation. So, Andy, thank you again so much.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure, and thank you everyone for tuning in, and look forward to catching up with everyone soon. All the best. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.